Hej Fredrik!
Tjena Alex!
Hur är läget?
Men det är bra, är det med dig?
Jo tack, det är bara bra.
Nu är vi tillbaka här inne i vår lilla grotta.
Jag vet, och senaste veckorna eller för 2 veckor sedan så sa jag att jag skulle komma och lussa för dig.
Ja, vad händer med det?
Jo men det kommer, men det är uppskjutet då.
Okej, så att jag får det om 2 veckor då, nära Lucia.
Precis, ja det är ju då.
Du kom undan, ser du att jag gav dig den här ursäkten nu?
Tack!
Kom ihåg det.
Jag håller på och övar.
Men berätta nu i alla fall, vad är det som har hänt senaste veckorna här? Är det någonting särskilt som du har fastnat för? Liksom? Någonting som du känner att du vill reflektera lite över?
Vi hade väldigt tragiskt nog en olycka i Norge för veckan sedan.
Jag hörde om det, men jag visste inte. Kan du berätta lite för mig som inte har läst på mig om det där?
Vet inte så mycket egentligen. Vet nästan ingenting, utan det var en skolflygning då. Och någonting tyvärr hände. Så att det är alldeles för tidigt att säga någonting, men oerhört tragiskt. Och som sagt, vi beklagar.
Hur många var det som ombord?
3, en instruktör och 2 elever.
Fy fan.
Oerhört tragiskt och hemskt och någonting som aldrig ska ske.
Men har det här skett sedan tidigare här i Skandinavien?
Men vi har haft olyckor såklart i utbildningssammanhang. Det är ofta små flygplan och det finns begränsningar och det finns situationer där man trycker in ett flygplan i en stressad situation. Det är klart, man måste ju öva på saker och ting. Det händer ju ibland dock att det blir fel. Så det är oerhört tragiskt och någonting som vi hoppas på att man kommer fram med en orsak och att man kan åtgärda. För oftast är det man vill. Liksom, vad är det som har hänt och vad kan vi göra för att det inte ska hända igen?
Precis, hela tiden jobba proaktivt även i utbildningen.
Precis. Men bortsett från det då så har vi en situation som, det är väl lite så här ska man väl kunna säga en lugn stund just nu. Det är egentligen inte lugn. Den är bara väldigt tyst. Vi vet inte så mycket vad som händer. Och alla är väl lite oroliga kring vad som ska komma skall med till exempel nya utbrott av den här covid-sjukan. Till exempel.
Tredje vågen, ja.
Exakt. Så det är väl lite det, just att man står lite och tänker lite. Och vi ser ju statistiken från sommaren var ju att luftrummet i Europa, positiv trend hela tiden. Som vi själva har rapporterat om så har det ju varit att allt har sett väldigt lovande ut. Men sen i mitten av november så bröts den trenden. Och tittar man på luftrum som exempel ovanför Nederländerna som ett av de mest trafikerade så har det då piken kom i den 10-11 november tror jag. Och sen har det gått ner lite grann och sen ligger det stabilt då.
Men är det vanligt att det är så rent, om man tittar rent på årets spann, att det är just under den perioden som piken kommer och sen så börjar det stagnera lite? Det brukar inte vara tvärtom. Alltså
så här, piken brukar ju väldigt sällan vara i mitten av november. Den brukar komma sommaren då.
Ja men det är klart. Men jag tänkte just för den här säsongen där vi är i just nu då, Q4.
Nej, däremot så nu ser det så att nu borde det börja komma upp mer och mer. Vi borde börja se mer julresenärer och det gör vi. Men lokala nya restriktioner, man har sagt till exempel alla som kommer från Sydafrika och vissa andra afrikanska länder ska sättas i karantän. Det är nya regler som gäller. Vissa säger att nu ska man ha vaccinpass och det här PCR-rätt och vissa säger att det får inte vara mer än 365 dagar gammalt, det här vaccinationen då. Det är väldigt mycket nya lokala regler som kommer upp och det påverkar bokningsmönstret. Alltså resenärerna blir då obekväma och man känner då att nej, det är fortfarande för bökigt.
Precis.
Låt oss inte boka den här resan.
Och det känns
där
oklart.
vi är just nu. Ja, oklart.
Men skulle jag boka en resa till Bahamas liksom, och spendera ganska mycket pengar på det eller vad det nu skulle vara, så skulle jag vilja veta såklart, jag kan komma dit. Och om jag inte kan komma dit, men då ska jag ha avbokningsskydd. Men då kanske det här flygbolaget eller bokningsbolaget har gått i konken. Det vet man ju inte för att siffrorna från bokstödet har inte riktigt kommit för det här året och det får man ju se nästa år. Precis. Då kan det vara för sent.
Du har helt rätt i det att det handlar också om att du vet ju också om att i ryggraden så vet man ju att det finns ju ingenting svårare än att försöka få tillbaka pengar från flygbolagen. Det tar väldigt, väldigt lång tid. Handlar det om 500 spänn, absolut en helt sak. Men en resa till Mexiko för 60 000, då vill du gärna kanske ha tillbaka de pengarna ganska snart. Men däremot med det sagt så tittar man på charterresenärerna då, så typ till Kanarieöarna så är det ju fullt. Alltså varje flight är ju fullt och man återanställer gamla folk som har fått gått och så att det är
i alla fall roligt att höra.
Ja, det är det. Väldigt. Och det gör ju även de stora bolagen också. Alltså vi har mycket rekryteringar just nu som ligger där ute. Men det handlar mycket om återanställningar och man börjar samla kraft för att komma tillbaka. Men det är ju någonstans ändå så här att det är lite oroligt just nu. Och det ser man ju på, är man aktieintresserad och sådär så ser man ju då på de flygbolagsaktierna att nej, det är inte mycket man kan liksom, det är inte jättepositiva trender där, utan det är väldigt negativt. Men jag satt förra veckan och lyssnade på Ryanairs vd Michael O'Leary som är ökänd i branschen, som sitter på den här Eurocontrol branschorganisationens YouTube-kanal som heter Straight Talk. Där sitter han och pratar om just det här att liksom, man måste expandera, vi måste gå framåt. Och han tar det som att vi har en skyldighet, alltså som Ryanair, att erbjuda resandet för europeer. Medan andra bolag inte vågar göra det, fast att de har fått statligt bidrag under pandemin.
Och där är det någonstans dumt, för att där stagnerar man ju någonstans istället. Alltså bara rent från mitt perspektiv då. Vilket innebär att man väntar egentligen, man dör ut på sin död. Förstår du vad jag menar? Man är ett life support till någon som inte ändå vågar liksom, ta de här stegen för att skaffa sig en bättre hälsa. Liksom, om man gör en jämförelse på det sättet.
Ja. Du menar att bolagen då som inte vågar expandera, att de borde göra det liksom, eller hur?
Ja, men jag tycker att man borde behöva göra någonting annorlunda i alla fall. För att driva intäkter. Absolut att du skulle kunna sitta och hushålla och liksom portionera de pengarna som du har. Men alltså, då handlar det bara om att det är konstgjord andning istället.
Men jag är helt enig, och det är därför som jag undrar, är verkligen SAS-aktien en bra aktie 10 år framåt? För att vad man gör är att man backar och så låter man då Finnair som är störst på långhåll från Stockholm Arlanda nu. Liksom. Vi låter Eurowings som nu annonserar att de söker folk till Arlanda bas. Vi får andra aktörer då, och Ryanair till exempel, då, att komma in och ta marknad. Så att du har ju helt rätt i det, att då sitter man och gör konstgjord andning och bara skjuter upp det. Och då är ju frågan då, kommer SAS kunna att när allt är över, när de känner nu är det lugnt, nu kan vi dra igång igen, då är frågan, finns passagerarna fortfarande kvar där? Finns
personalen kvar? Finns infrastrukturen kvar? Eller alla slottider är liksom bokade, eller vad man kallar det? Alla där man parkerar sina flygplan och jag menar, det är ju sådana saker rent konkret som också kommer kunna spela roll i det långa loppet. Och därför så tror jag absolut att det Ryanairs vd säger, och det är ju bara att vinna på. Men du har ju varit utomlands nu också.
Ja.
Du har varit i Tyskland.
Ja.
Träffat på en tysk pilot som väldigt många säkert känner till.
Ja,
och
definitivt.
Det har väl varit väldigt roligt, har jag hört.
Ja, men helt fantastiskt. Helt fantastiskt. Och få någon som har hållit på sedan 2015 med just YouTube och försöker sprida det här budskapet kring vad är flyget och vad är att vara pilot och vad innefattar det och sådär. Det är fantastiskt kul att få träffa en sån person som jobbat så många år inom det och som verkligen vet vad man pratar om. Men som också har otroligt mycket folk bakom sig. Alltså när han släpper en video så är det otroligt mycket folk som tittar. Och att få han att säga, nej men jag vill vara med i Flygarpodden. Jag tycker det här är jättekul. Det är jätteroligt att nå ut till den skandinaviska marknaden. Det är fantastiskt.
Det är superroligt.
Verkligen.
Det är väl ingen anledning till oss att dra det här någon längre. Nej. Det är väl dags att introducera honom.
Det är det.
So from the studio here in Stockholm, let's send it over to Alex in Germany. Take it away, Alex.
First of all, welcome to Munich.
Thank you, Joe, and thank you for having me here.
Yes, absolutely. It's a pleasure that you flew all the way from Stockholm to Munich to do this recording. It's really nice.
I mean, as has to be in aviation, you have to take the flight and fly down. I mean, the digital meetings are awesome, but in some ways, it's better to meet in person.
Absolutely, I agree.
So, how are you? You good?
I'm good. I'm a little overwhelmed with the latest works.
Yeah.
But no, flying's been good. The YouTube channel's been doing good. The book's been doing great.
Yeah.
But I'm coming to a point where I'm ready to take a break. Yeah.
Is there any upcoming holiday?
Well, I'm doing a lot of flying in December, but my company granted me to get off for Christmas, which is pretty nice. This is actually the first time in 5 years it is that I'll be celebrating Christmas with the family because my seniority was always so low I could never request off for Christmas. So now I'm very happy to be spending Christmas with them. Yeah.
We wish you a very happy Christmas.
It's fairly early.
It is though, but I mean it's coming up. It's December next week. Yeah.
True.
So Joe, please, for those who doesn't know who you are, just give a brief introduction of who
absolutely,
you are.
Absolutely. Well, my name is Joe Dieboldar. I've aged well. 37 years old. I live in Munich, and I'm known among the social media platforms as AK Captain Joe.
Yes.
And I've used to fly passenger planes for 8 years for a great company called Air Berlin until their bankruptcy in 2017. And since then, I've been flying for a great cargo company, Cargolux, who's been taking me around the entire world and having a lot of fun with it. And and running this YouTube social media business as a side, just written my book and doing all sorts of other things. That's more or less rounds up Captain Joe.
That's awesome. And I just have to start by saying, like, okay, so we're here to talk a little bit about aviation and stuff, obviously. But you also have that book release that we will be talking about very, very soon. Before that, you said social media and stuff. I mean, you have a lot of followers. Instagram, you have about almost 500,000 followers. It's huge. And you do videos on YouTube and everything. You do speeches to companies. You travel around. How come you started with that?
It's one of those stories that is by pure coincidence, and I'm actually quite proud of the story. It happened so that whilst I was flying with Air Berlin, I realized I had a lot of time off. Flying 4 days, another 5 days off, that sort of roster, and I just wanted to do something with my time off. So I looked into becoming a personal trainer, which I did for some time. I did the newspaper run. I did all sorts of weird jobs. But
this was at the same time as you were employed by Air Berlin.
Yes, absolutely. And then one day I was, funny enough, in Munich on a turnaround, and the turnaround was like a 2-hour turnaround. We had quite some time, and then my dad suddenly calls me, and he was reading a newspaper article about an airplane incident, and he didn't understand what the pitot tube was or how it worked. And I said, look, Dad, no problem. I'll take you on a virtual outside check. So we switched from a phone call to a FaceTime call, and I took him around the aircraft and I pointed out things, this is the pitot tube, and then I showed him the landing gear and this and this and that. Sure. And this outside check I did with him, he's been like 2 weeks later, we meet and, had a beer or two. And then he says, Joe, you explained this so incredibly well. Don't you think your passengers could be interested in, watching these kind of videos? Why don't you start a YouTube channel? And
so your father was
my dad. Okay. My dad was already like 66 or something, so he came up with the idea. And then we said, all right, why don't we start with an Instagram account first? So we uploaded a couple of pictures from the cockpit and stuff like that. And then I immediately realized that it just skyrocketed.
So when was this? This was like back in 2000.
Oh my God, that was 2015, I think.
So this wasn't that far long ago.
No, it's not that far long ago, no. And then, so I realized that the cockpit pictures did really well. And then I said, okay, I'll try my first YouTube video. Yeah. So I uploaded my first YouTube video, which was admittedly very boring. It was about the sterile cockpit, which is don't talk, private. I don't have private conversations below 10,000 feet. And then I realized, okay, good. And then the next video that I did was about reverse thrust, which is something that passengers can see from the window, from the passenger window on landing. And because it's something passengers can see, and the thumbnail maybe, got the people really interested. The video got like 1 million views in like a week or something. So I knew I'm onto something as long as I do something passenger related, because there's a wider audience to that. And and then so if you look at my first videos, the first 20 of them are all very passenger related.
But are they still there?
Yeah, they're still there. Yeah,
so the first one is still there.
They're still there. And I mean, if I look at the videos now, it's so cringeworthy because so much has changed since then. I mean, I recorded my videos in the kitchen back then, and the lighting was terrible, the audio was rubbish, and I mean, it's just everything sort of. But I mean, you learn from your mistakes, and I think now it's got to what it is now, and I'm pretty happy about it.
But I think it's fun, as you said, that I mean, people that is non into the aviation industry, they're very curious about it. Like, they want to know what goes on and what happens and why does the seatbelt sign come off and on, and they want to know stuff, right?
True.
So I think you do have a big audience who wants to know more about what's actually happened. Sterile cockpit, nobody knows about it, I think. So maybe that's not like more hit friendly, compared to the reverse thrust.
Yes.
So, okay, so you started YouTube, you did Instagram, and the change now, it's been 7 years, right?
Yeah, roughly.
Sort of. Where are you today?
Today, I'm still enjoying it very, very much. It's ever evolving, I want to say. There's more people involved now than it was at the beginning, that sort of started helping out. I have a really nice guy he studies aviation, what's it called, Luft- und Raumfahrttechnik, space and science sort of thing.
Okay.
And he helps me a lot with writing the scripts for the videos, so we come up with the really good ideas. And then, I think where have I come today? I think now that the channel has grown over these years, it's what I enjoy about it the most is getting the invitations. I mean, like this conversation we're having here is a fantastic showcase, but also working with big companies, getting invited to do presentations, and that's what I really love and enjoy. And YouTube is still there, and I still love doing the videos, but now it's also it's transitioning more in giving actual presentations, interacting with the people, because as I said the other day, is that you are, in front of a camera by yourself, you upload the video, you don't really have that interaction besides a few comments. And I now want to be more engaged with the audience and actually be physically present and go to these presentations.
Especially now when we soon, hopefully, will be out of the COVID, right?
Yes.
Go out and do the tour. And obviously we have to invite you to Sweden and Scandinavia.
That'll be beautiful.
To meet the listeners. But tell me, do you have any good or bad memories when it comes to giving speeches, like for big companies and stuff like that? Something fun to bring up.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's always, a bit of stage fright. I mean, I'm a human as everyone else. And I had one of those presentations in Toulouse with Airbus.
Really?
There was
in Toulouse?
In Toulouse, yeah. There was a bunch of Airbus engineers, test pilots, and I mean, everyone was there. And I went there to give a presentation on how my transition was from Airbus flying over to Boeing flying. That was the invitation. So I gave this presentation, and the funniest thing was I went on stage and I was freaking out. I was so nervous.
Did you feel like for 1 second like you were a fraud?
Yeah,
I don't know anything about what to say.
I mean, I was really, really worried that they're going to be asking me like some in-depth questions about the A320. But what happened was that to create a relaxed atmosphere within this room, I came in, and it was one of those slanted theaters with, there's like 300 people, 400 people there, and to calm my nerves and to have some kind of icebreaker, I didn't want to come in and tell a funny joke. So I asked them if they, everyone had a piece of paper in front of them. I asked them to fold a paper plane, and I laid out a little circle on the stage, and I said, whoever hits that circle, wins a prize. So everyone wrote their name onto their paper plane, and then 3, 2, 1, and these like 300 planes all flew down on stage. Luckily, someone actually hit the stage, which is really cool. And that was the people were like having a huge laugh out of it, and it calmed me down. It created a really nice atmosphere among everyone, and then the presentation went flawless. It was really cool.
Amazing. Hope you get an invite back.
I hope that would be really nice.
Well, I mean, it's fun to be out and doing these speeches and lectures, to be able to talk in front of people. And it's fun. But as you said, like, it doesn't matter if you've done it before. It's still some way a little bit of stage fright just before, and then you start. But amazing to start with something like that. That's absolutely amazing. Talk about the CRM skills.
Yes. Yeah. True. Absolutely.
But we have to talk. So you did a transition from being commercial pilot for passengers, right? And now you fly for a cargo aircraft, a cargo airplane. The 747.
Yes.
How was the transition?
It was quite unique. The funniest thing is actually when I was invited to come for the screening to fly in the simulator to actually show my flying skills. I was a little bit nervous because I've flown on the A320 without trim for 8 years. And I thought, okay, I've lost all my trim sensors in my thumb. So I went for a night session in the simulator in Frankfurt on the 747 to prepare myself for this sim check. And I went there, and it's like it's muscle memory. It's in your blood. Within seconds, I knew how to trim again. And what was really nice, so I flew I kind of knew what they will expect during the screening, and then literally 8 hours later, coming out of that sim, I went into the screening sim and then passed with flying colours.
You went directly from...
I went from Frankfurt to Luxembourg. I wanted no big gap.
I wouldn't recommend that. If you would call me back then, I would say no. You need a rest.
Yeah, I need to no. But that was actually very, very helpful to just to gain confidence again, because I was really worried if I failed this screening, that would have been really bad. And no, it was good fun. I really enjoyed it. And now the transition itself, Airbus to Boeing, it is. You can compare it very much like driving a manual car for 8 years. Yeah. Sorry, an automatic car, and now driving a manual car. So it's. Okay. I think that relates.
So manual will be then the Boeing, and
correct,
the automatic will be Airbus. Yeah.
But I think I want to say with confidence actually that landing the 747 is actually a little bit easier than landing an Airbus A320, because you just have more feel because of the yoke obviously moving. Yeah. The sightseeing is great. I'm not downgrading Airbus at all, but I'm just saying, from a pilot's perspective, there is more feel and passion to flying a 74 or a Boeing in general than flying an Airbus.
Could it also be like now the change between flying the Airbus 320? Average sector might be like 1.5 hours, so you might do a couple of landings each day, right?
True.
Compared now, when you fly a long haul, not so many flights, you're not doing as much landings.
That's true.
Could it maybe be like that? The landings today are more worth it for you.
So the amount of landings that, for example, a normal low-cost carrier does in a day, that's what I do in a month. It's really, I don't do that many landings anymore, just because of the length of the flights, as you mentioned, and our schedules. But I think because of that, you enjoy the one land you get.
Moment.
Correct.
Exactly.
And there's a lot of preparation that goes into it as well. I mean, we do our approach briefing and all of that literally an hour before we come into descent. Well, actually, let's say 80 miles prior top of descent, which is somewhere 45 minutes prior landing. So, and I think I enjoy it more, especially because of the destinations we go to. I mean, we fly to destinations that I only fly into, I don't know, twice a year sometimes, and that gives you a bit of a thrill, because every approach is standard. It's not standard. No, I mean, I could.
ILS in München, you've done a couple of times.
I can tell you all the frequencies going from Munich to Berlin by heart. I mean, we did them so many times, but now it's not just also the actual flying the challenge. It's all communication. ATC is big. I mean, if you go from Russia to China, from China to Alaska, there's all these different ATC guys and different procedures in place, CPDLC, HF, oceanic clearances and all of that stuff. So there's a big
operation behind only the flying part.
And it's not just the physical or manual flying part. Yeah.
And that's the fun part, isn't it? That's aviation. For me, that's aviation. In order to take a plane and fly somewhere and, stuff happens like, okay, the ILS doesn't work here or we don't have any lights. And I've been into Gambia, Banjul, where a lot of birds activities and a lot of action goes on. So it's fun when it's a little bit different than just the normal standard.
Funny story. Yeah. On my second landing with the 74. So my first landing was in Los Angeles, which is amazing.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
That's amazing. And then the second one, our second rotation, we went to Mali, Bamako. Oof. And that's actually quite famous for having limited lights. There's barely any lights at that airport, and it's known as a black hole approach because you fly into, it's like this optical illusion you get that you can't really judge how wide the runway is or how long the runway is because of these limited lights at night. Obviously during the daytime it's different. And so we come into approach, we brief this black hole, this and that, and and my captain flicks on the landing lights at 10,000 feet, and we go through a couple of clouds. And my captain says, hang on, why is only the left-hand side so bright? What's wrong with the right-hand side? And all the landing lights on the right-hand side were inoperative. So we come in for landing. We saw the runway. I mean, it was fine. Yeah. But, it's just one of those days, where just everything comes together. And, everything was good.
What has been then the most fun destination to fly towards?
Quito, for sure. Okay. Ecuador, Quito.
It's very high, isn't it?
It's super high. Let's say fun is maybe not the right word. It's more challenging. No, it's intense and challenging because that's where you really, the plane behaves so different than it would at 2,000 feet, and there it's at 10,000, 12,000 feet. The landing is at 7,500 feet, and meaning your turning radius is much larger than it is. You have a much higher airspeed to actually keep the plane flying. So all of these things play into this approach, and meaning you have to be really on point, well prepared, and those are the more challenging ones. Fun-wise, I mean, any landing that turns out great is a fun approach. But no, I wouldn't say that's fun. I mean, going into the States, if you go into the States, you very often get these visual approaches.
Yep.
They'll clear you out, 30 miles out to say, you're clear for visual approach. So that's a lot of fun. That's the opposite.
Well, I agree. And also, you're clear for the approach in number 5. And you're like 1, 2, 3, 5. Okay.
Yeah.
But to just go back quickly to Krita, I think it's really funny that you mention it, because it is a strange airport when it comes to its very high altitude, as you said, high speed and everything. How does that in your mindset works when you're flying there? Do you prep during the whole flight? Like you start going on with things? I mean, because you have the luxury of that time. You don't have any passengers and stuff to talk to.
Correct. Well, what we do is we fly either from Sao Paulo or from Curitiba. It's roughly sort of a 4 to 5 hour flight to get to Quito. So you fly all over the rainforest, which is actually also pretty. That's quite the sight.
Wow.
I mean, I've never flown along a 5 hour long thunderstorm. It's the size of the thunderstorms there. It's epic. No, but you do have a lot of time, and there are a couple of things. For example, you're not allowed to extend the flaps at 22,000 feet. But that, I mean, you read this as a limitation in your booking. So when am I ever going to extend my flaps in 22,000 feet? And that's exactly where you'll be needing it. And then you literally have to descend below 22,000 feet in order to do that. And so there's a lot of preparation. I mean, it sounds silly, but you can do a lot of chair flying mental preparation already in the hotel room before. And I highly recommend anyone who's wanting to become a pilot to do that, because if you've seen it in your head before, it'll just be so much easier on the actual day where you'll be needing it. So,
yeah, I can imagine.
Hej, Alexander här från aviators.se och Flygarpodden. Vill bara flika in snabbt och uppmuntra till att gå in på vår hemsida aviators.se. Bli medlem, få ta del av den senaste informationen, vad som händer i branschen, men även såklart också våra rekryteringsuppdrag. Så gör det nu, aviators.se. Vi ses!
And talking about passenger-wise, the difference between having people saying like, okay, we need to depart now because I have a connecting flight, stuff like that, and now you don't have anybody speaking. Maybe some animals, but they don't speak. but how does that change feels, and advantage or disadvantage?
For me personally, I never became a pilot because of, if it's passengers or cargo, I became pilot primarily because of the feel, because I love just the passion of it and then the experiences I get from it. But flying cargo is far much more relaxed. It is so much more relaxed. It is really, I mean, we take off when the load master hands us the load sheet and fueling is complete and he said, all right, you ready to go? And the door closes, we know nothing will stop us now. We'll just, but with passengers, then you have that passenger who forgot his luggage, or he doesn't show up, and then you have to, find his luggage, and all of that nonsense. I have to admit a little bit that I miss flying with the flight attendants, because it was just much. I mean, it was just fun with them. There was always fun interactions and talking to them, and because we are, flying across the Atlantic in the middle of the night, the two of us, it's pretty lonely sometimes. But so missing this communication, that's the only thing I kind of miss from passenger flying. But other than that, cargo is great.
I can imagine. And so you've been cargo pilot a couple of years now, and we do have had the pandemic, obviously, and the cargo industry has been blooming. How you feel that as a pilot flying cargo? Have you been flying a lot of extra flights? Or?
Yeah, it's been quite hectic. The last 2 years have been, extraordinary for the cargo industry. And I sometimes actually feel a little ashamed, literally posting things on Instagram because we're doing so well, and I know so many colleagues who are not doing well. So it's sometimes a bit, I don't want to put them off, it's what the downside of this whole pandemic is, or was for us. you're a pilot not just because of the flying part. You're also a pilot because you want to experience great layovers. You want to go out in Hong Kong. You want to do, go ice skating in Novosibirsk. You want to go bike riding in LA. There's all these things you want to do, and we did in the past, and all of that has been taken away from us because we have hotel. What's it called? In-room confinement. That you can't leave the hotel rooms. I mean, to an extent, I'm not kidding. In Singapore, we got the room key to open the door once, and if you exit the room, you couldn't get back in. Meaning, you had to do the walk of shame, go to the reception, and get a new key card, and then they ask you all these funny questions. Why have you left your room? And then and all of that, and that was. And I think that's taken this love and passion out of flying because, you went with your colleagues for drinks and this and that, and then this is all gone at the moment. I mean, I'm hoping obviously it'll come back, but
Because you have been allowed to enter at least places during the pandemic where, like for me, for instance, has not been able to go to.
True.
I mean, in that way, you have seen, in the front line, you've seen, okay, shit, this is not many people in this airport.
True.
Have you been, like, for instance, in flying in Asia, have you seen the traffic has become... You've been alone on the frequency and stuff.
I have two really good examples. Bangkok is one of my favorites. Thailand is it's just so much fun flying there. And it is one of the busiest airports within Asia. And I remember when we went there, I went with a captain of mine, and we're in this terminal building, and it was, dead is an understatement. There was no one there. It was absolutely quiet. And he said, all right, let's have a €2 coin and drop it onto the floor. And you could hear it drop because that's how quiet it was. It was shocking. Yeah. And the other thing that I remember was also pretty fun, was coming into Hong Kong. I always think the aviation industry can be determined by the amount of traffic that goes into Hong Kong. One of the biggest airports in the world.
Yeah, that's true.
You come into Hong Kong... cargo, you're number 25 on approach. Oh my God, it takes forever. But during the pandemic, you're number 1, you're clear to land out of 22,000 feet. Yeah. It was insane. I mean, you could do approaches. We shortcutted everything because there was just no one there. And it was to some point really sad. On the other hand, it was really fun to do it from the flying part. But but I can see that there's an uprise, and you see we're now back to sequence number 10 or 12. So we're getting there. We're getting back to the fun
index to compare with the Hong Kong.
Absolutely.
So we're here today to talk a little bit about your book.
Yes.
Yeah. So there's a lot of questions to ask about the book. Yeah. Just first, tell us your pitch. What is the book all about?
So the pitch of the book is that I want to say that over the years being a pilot, I've realized that checklists have made me more disciplined and focused, and actually more goal-oriented and more successful. So all my YouTube career is more or less based on checklists. I have a video checklist that I follow through, how to set it up, when to publish it, this and that, how to write a script. And I thought, how would it be if I can convert checklists from the cockpit to everyday life? To be more disciplined, to get your creativity going again, to be less on your phone, because a lot of people are on their phones most of the time. And that's what the book is all about. It's 100 checklists. That is, the subtitle is to become a better version of yourself. And I think not all the 100 will apply to you. No. And I'm not expecting you to do them in 100 days, but there will be, if there's 5 or 6 of them that you say, oh wow, this is a fantastic idea, I'll be happy with that.
Well, so who do you say this goes out to? Who are you writing to?
Everyone, literally. Everyone, I think, who is inspired by aviation, but not just that, also who is let's say a fond person of self-help. And the whole idea was, I have read a lot of self-help books and all that kind of stuff, and not to talk down any of the other authors, but it's very often a fantastic story they're writing, and then I feel elevated, and I read, oh, this is great, and then I close the book and I say, okay, good, now what? There's no action part in it. So mine is the checklist is always set up it's a story of my life that I've experienced. The second part is why I believe this checklist is good for you. And the third part is the actual checklist, meaning you have to get out of your chair and apply it. So it's more an action-orientated book. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Not only like, okay, so as you said, like, okay, a philosophy, but also like action. Like,
Correct.
Okay,
Correct,
do it.
correct.
If you want to do it, then do it.
Correct.
But do you have an example, like a checklist that you feel like this could be something, for yourself? Like, this is my kind of checklist I always use.
There's one I use in the cockpit a lot.
And we're not talking about before start engine. We're not talking about standard checklists.
No. Now, there's one thing which I personally believe is it's very, very difficult to apply because you have to really bring up some courage. It is ask the 1 to 10 performance question.
Okay.
So when I've done a flight and I was the pilot flying and, I did my thing, I then ask my captain, can you rate my today's performance on a scale from 0 to 10? I mean, you'll never get a 10 because there's always something you've done wrong. I mean, minor mistake here and there. So if he then says 7, then my return question would be, how can I improve to actually become a 10? So he will give me some criticism or tips that would, improve my performance. And that is a checklist you can use in everyday life. Whatever you do, if you approach your boss and say, look, how would you rate my performance on a 0 to 10? Asking the question itself is already so difficult because you are so you fear this criticism, because he'll give you an honest answer. You've done this wrong, you've done that wrong. Yeah. But if you ask the other question, how can I improve it to get a 10? That's where you can improve yourself, whatever it is, and that's one of the checklists. And how to do it is all in the book.
Yeah. But how does the let's say if we're really in the flight deck, how does the captain respond to you? It's like, it was a 10 first. He's laughing.
No.
He knows exactly.
No. They know it's a serious question of mine because I want to improve. I want to be. I always see a captain as an instructor, and that's how I treat them. And so I can only gain from their knowledge. Yeah. So you should obviously ask this question only to someone who is either superior of you or has more knowledge than you, whatever field of area it is. But that's it.
But I think it's fun. Sounds good. But have you got a 10 yet?
Have I got a 10 yet? No. I think a lot of colleagues, obviously, they enjoy to give criticism as well, and I'm totally fine with that. I mean, I've got 7s, 8s, and 9s, but
But isn't that also for the aviation industry? Like, we all know that we're in the simulator assessments and we're doing PC checks and OPS and everything. Isn't that part of, for us to be asking for the criticism because we want to improve, because we know that we have a test coming up?
That is true.
Compared to, let's say, a business person who's working in finance, obviously he wants to improve himself, but for him or her, it's more important maybe to show up a face like, I know what I'm talking about because it's the image. Because there's no test coming out. Yeah,
that's true. But I think in those areas, you can't do fake it until you make it.
You can't do that.
At one point, you'll just surface and realize that you just. So true. I think it's important to constantly improve. Another one that is super basic is, for example, when's the last time you've done something with your hands, like created or built something with your hands? You remember? I'm not talking about an IKEA cupboard. That doesn't count.
No, I'm the worst as doing those kind of things, though. But I would say let's say this summer.
Okay. So just to give you an example, I drove home to my parents, and this checklist is inspired by that story. I was looking out into the garden. I saw my parents had bird houses, like these little bird nests, and 5 of them were broken and only one of them was functional. I thought, oh my God. So I decided, all right, I'm going to put my phone aside. I'm going to focus entirely on repairing these houses. So I repaired these houses, put them up onto the poles, and the next day we're sitting on the terrace, and I look out and I see birds sitting on these little houses. I'm telling you, my feeling just skyrocketed. I was so happy in that moment, and I think it's those things. If you build your own coffee table, then people come inside your living room. Wow, that's a fantastic coffee table. Where did you get that? And then you can say, I built this myself. Yeah. Guess how proud you'll feel. So it's these kind of checklists to encourage you just to do more rather than hiding behind your phone and just wasting away.
That is true. So the next time I will build my own airplane and I will fly you with it to Stockholm.
Okay.
And I hope that you will grade my
grade your performance on that. Okay.
No, but regarding the checklist, so what we see is that more and more industries that is not in the aviation is implementing things, especially in the hospital industry, right? So with the nurses and the doctors and everything, they're doing this. Would you say that there's more to implement in other industries as well?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think what checklists do is prevent you. I'm not going to say entirely prevent you from failure, but they're like gates, you know. So I have to do or follow through this checklist to a certain point, then I know, okay, I've assured this situation. Then I follow through to the next point, I've accomplished this. And it prevents you from forgetting things, especially from forgetting things, and just working with more structure. Because I think a lot of people nowadays, they wake up, what I'm going to do today. You know, there's no real structure to the entire day. Sometimes it's good to have no structure if it's your day off, but you know, why not plan a little bit ahead? And a lot of this is I recommend to write these checklists, your own checklist, the day before, because you then prime your mind already on what is what expects you the next day, and then you wake up. So, for example, I remember last time you set your breakfast table the night before. Have you done that?
No, I haven't.
I'm telling you, it's really cool. It's my mum, when I told her about this story, she said, "Oh my God, I'll never do this." You know, and she said, "Mom, just try it out." And she's doing that every day. Okay. So she sets the breakfast table, put out the cutlery and stuff like that. It's these minor little things that you can change in your life just to, well, feel better about yourself at the end of the day.
But so do you prepare clothes for the next day as well? The night before?
God, I feel embarrassed to answer. Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. I have a...
But I mean, it's wonderful. I wish I did that.
Yeah, because the thing is, I mean, this is, funny enough, inspired by Steve Jobs, who wore the same stuff every day. But I think it's just this little thought processes in the morning, which is so painstaking. What I'm going to wear today. I've got a full cupboard of stuff. Speaking of the cupboard, there's also one which is about... You know, we have too many clothes in our cupboard. If you look in your cupboard, you have, let's say, 150 pieces of clothing, all in, and you effectively wear 30 of them. You know, just declutter your closet. So that's another checklist. So you see where I'm going with this.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, but I think it's good. In some way, I'm inspired of it, and I think I will. My girlfriend will really love me to implement a lot of things in this book. I think,
good.
Especially that's prepare more stuff. For instance, I know that you have this. In your house before you leave, like you have a checklist.
Oh my God, you saw that?
But which is amazing because I thought in my head, wow, I should do that as well. Because what happens with me is that, okay, for me it's standard. It's like motion skills. I know that I always have my key and my wallet and stuff. But it does happen, right? That you forget something. Happens many, many times. So it's better to just have that checklist. Draw it up, take 10 seconds of your life, put it up at your door, so you always remember everything.
I'm telling you, I had one of the most important checklists that I use so often is the one for my pilot's bag, for my suitcase, that I know all of my gears in there, my license are in there, my passports, they're one of the most important things, my medical, my headset, my sunglasses. Oh my God, I forgot my sunglasses once. You will not believe if you're on a 12-hour flight to LA and you have no sunglasses. It is, the pain. So that's... Just to protect you from these moments in life, that's what I believe checklists are there for.
Yeah, I think it's really good. And I can say I had done it once when I was studying. I did checklists for studying. Like, okay, you have to do this and that and that. And it's not a checklist, but like, okay, you have to, it's like more of a timetable.
Yeah.
But it comes down to being part of it. Like, you have to check it off. Like, you know. But I think it's absolutely amazing. Cool. So you're releasing this book once we are publishing this episode.
Correct.
It will be the same. No, the day after.
The day before. No, the 1st of December. It's coming on.
Okay, great.
So the day before. It's already online now.
It's already online, so you can go out on the website.
Yeah, either on the website you can get the ebook, or you go on Amazon where you can get the paperback and also the ebook there as well.
Yeah, perfect. And we encourage everybody to do it. It's a perfect Christmas gift.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think. I hope none in my family listens to this episode because everybody will get this book.
Okay, good. Nice.
So, talk about something else then.
Yeah.
I mean, you have been on YouTube and Instagram, and we see a lot of student pilots, right? And I know, as a former instructor, I know that I have had a lot of students talking about you. So I have one guy called Elias, which is a good friend of mine.
Okay.
He's always talking about you and asking questions and stuff, and he's very jealous I'm meeting you right now, I can say. But talking about those student pilots or future pilots, what would you say to them now in this industry, in the pandemic as we see it right now in Europe?
I think a lot of these young students at the moment are struggling a little bit with where am I going with this? Is there going to be enough demand of pilots in the upcoming years for me to actually get a job? I think first of all, it sounds so cliche, but it is really just to never give up and also believe in yourself. Once you are done with your training, and this is what I have done, and I think this is very, very valuable, is that you have to literally go out to the airports and you just have to talk to anybody you meet up with who has a plane. You tell them that you're a pilot. I have a really, really interesting story that a friend of mine, she cleaned planes for a living. At an airfield where she had her pilot's license, at ATPL, the whole thing was all completed. And she worked there to clean planes. Guess how long she did that job?
1 year?
2 months. She met so many people who passed by her. Oh, you're washing my plane, that's fantastic. And then she got into talking with them. Hey, look, I need to ferry this plane there and there tomorrow. You know, you want to fly the plane with me? Boom. And she got a job instantly. And this is, if you don't expose yourself at airports, or if you don't expose yourself or listen to podcasts, literally, if you listen to podcasts, you get to meet these people or hear their stories. What are you going to do? You're going to sit behind your computer and just wait for people to call you? This is never going to happen.
No. In none industry. I mean, there's no industry that you can do that. So,
correct. So that's where I think you should really immerse yourself in aviation. You already have, obviously, during your flight training, but then also show yourself at airports, talk to as many people as you can. If you work as a dispatcher, if that is one of the options you've gone for, speak to the pilots in the cockpit. Yeah. They know more than you will than any website, because very often I, as a pilot now, know the hiring status at my company, and every other pilot knows at their company too. So if you speak to the pilots, engage with them and talk to them, look, I am done, I've got all my licenses and I want to just get going, they will tell you, all right, the best thing would be wait another month or whatever. I have a feeling that we're hiring again, and apply to the right time. That's what you have to do.
I think that sounds absolutely amazing. I am totally 100% on board with that. I think one problem is that I think a lot of schools are saying like, okay, this is the dream to become pilots. It's amazing. You can do that. You can be that. Once the student graduates, they say, okay, so I've been waiting now for 2 weeks. Why haven't heard anything? It's like, okay, but first of all, you have to send in the application, and it takes a long time. I mean, to expect a job in the first year, that would be fantastic. But it takes a long time, just because of the recruitment process, as you told me yesterday. The recruitment process for some kind of airlines, they are quite long.
True.
Because you have to wait for type rating and stuff. So that's, you have to sit around and wait, and during that meantime, go out, do something, meet people.
And I think the another important message is also the type of aircraft. Don't even care about what plane it is. Just get experience. I mean, a lot of people, it's not a turbojet, it's a turboprop, sorry. It's not a jet engine. I'm not going to, these hours are not valuable to any... That's not entirely true. It's partly true, because if an airline says we need 2,000 jet hours, yes, there is a certain, it's qualified that they ask that for. But it's, in general, the more experience you have, I can just tell out of personal experience, I flew a Pilatus Porter and a King Air for 2 years before I got my job with Air Berlin. And I mean, that set me apart from everyone else. During the day of the assessment, there was 10 people there and only 2 of them were hired. We didn't have jet hours, but we had some experience. And that is different to doing 2 years of nothing compared to someone, as long as it's flying, you're talking ATC, you're in your procedures. That's what they want to see at the assessment.
Yeah, that is true. That is absolutely true. And talking about that for the future, what do you think is going to be? Do we see a lot of demand for pilots, or what do you think? Like you with your experience and talking with people.
Coming back to Hong Kong.
Exactly. So we're at 12 right now. So
yeah, I personally believe that it will come back, not as strong and as quickly as we had it in 2019, but we will get back to 2019 at some point. It might take another 3 or 4 years until it is at that peak again. But you see it already now that like holiday charters or whatever, if they're taking flight again, the planes are packed to the brim. People just want to leave the country. They are so fed up with all these regulations at home. They just want to go on holiday. And I think this demand or this demand of passengers going on holiday will always be there. Business travel might dial down a little bit because we've all seen you can do this via Zoom call, except for Alex, who's coming all the way to Munich.
It's very important. Of course.
But I think that this is something that you cannot deprive people from going on holiday. It will. This is just in our nature, and people want to go and explore and want to meet friends. Come to Munich and just do that kind of thing. So that is, as soon as that sort of picks up again, I think we are going to be actually in a lack of pilots. They're going to be too little, and the demand will go through the roof.
Especially now, I met a couple of weeks ago Sweden's first instructor on the electrical aircraft, and we saw the aircraft and everything. And in Sweden, I don't know here in Germany, but in Sweden, Norway, it's very big. And we're talking about 5 years' time, we will have a regional airlines flying with electrical aircraft. That's the vision, right? So let's hope for it. But that means small aircraft that could fly smaller routes, right? And that means that for one flight, that's a 737 with 180 passengers. I mean, it needs to have about 10 or 12 electrical aircraft in order to fill the same capacity.
True, yeah.
Maybe we're talking about single pilot crew,
Could be,
but still, it's a lot of aircrafts, which means a lot of pilots as well, and drones and everything.
I think what you just mentioned is a great showcase for actually the Airbus A380, because the demand of that plane, sadly, well, besides Corona, has already gone down anyways.
Which one? Airbus A220?
No, 80. A380. Because I think that, not to downgrade Airbus, but I think the whole idea came in a little bit too late, because now it's more about shorter connections, more direct flights, rather than going to these big hubs. So the more shorter and domestic flights you have, obviously the more planes you need and the more pilots you need. So I think that's where we are tending towards to. You'll always need the big hubs as well to get to the bigger countries. But in general, I mean, I'm just seeing myself, having a little plane zipping up and down in Sweden. That sounds like a fantastic job.
Yeah, it's going to be amazing. Just one thing is electrical in winter conditions, not maybe the best. But our instructor, Rickard, told us that it absolutely works. It's fine. Cool. So do you have anything you want to say to the Scandinavian audiences following you?
Yes. The beautiful women from Sweden and from Scandinavia.
Who do you mean?
No, I think I will definitely have to come for Midsummer. This is something I haven't experienced yet. There's one of my goals on my checklist, life goals that I want to achieve is I want to go to the North Cape on a motorbike.
Cool.
And to be fair, Scandinavia is, in my opinion, the more beautiful part of Europe. It's cold, but you've got your long summer days and stuff like that. And no, it's a fantastic country. And I think to all the future aviators who are out there in Scandinavia, just be patient. I mean, I have the feeling it'll come up again, and the demand will grow, and just hold your horses. Don't do anything out of the ordinary. Just stick to your plan. If it takes a year longer or two, it is just what it is. But just don't give up on your dreams and become a pilot in Scandinavia. That'll be really cool.
I think it sounds fun. And we obviously have to invite you both to fly on the electrical aircraft. But thank you so much for inviting me and having me here, and so much for being part of the Flygarpodden. So we look forward to meet you in the future, Joe.
I'm overwhelmed that you came all the way down here. It's been absolutely fantastic to have you here. And the only I can say is my famous quote is a good pilot is always learning, and stick to that. And hope to see you guys in Sweden.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Take care.
Bye.
Vilket sjukt intressant avsnitt. Jag är avundsjuk att inte jag fick vara med och höra det här live.
Ja. Det var faktiskt väldigt trevligt. Och han har ju lovat att komma hit tillbaka.
Till säsong 2, ja.
Så vi ska dricka snaps.
Snaps? Tysk snaps då, eller?
Snaps, ja,
snaps. Men alltså, jag tycker ändå någonstans det är väldigt intressant om det han pratar i sin bok om de här... Ja, men just hur du gör en checklista liksom över både din egna personliga struktur men även i ditt yrkesliv. Där, precis som många andra liksom bara i sådana här typer av genrer på böcker i alla fall babbla på om du ska göra si, du ska göra så. Här förmedlar mer, det här är de verktyg du har att arbeta med. Och det är här du kan använda dem i olika appliceringsområden i din vardag eller i jobbet. Det tar jag med mig. Alltså det är ju superintressant. Och jag ska lägga vantarna på den här boken och ta en lång läsning över jul i alla fall.
Det tycker jag. Det är verkligen så här, det är just som jag själv sa också att få någonting så här att kunna komma ihåg. Som ett exempel var just det här att jag brukar oftast komma ihåg allting. Så att jag behöver ingen checklista när jag går hemifrån. Men det händer ju alldeles för ofta. Senast idag. Att jag glömde någonting. Eller hur? Och det gör ju någonstans att då funkar inte mitt system.
Nej, men precis.
Nej. Och istället för att klaga och säga så här, så har jag då en liten checklista som tar mig 30 sekunder att göra. Och jag alltid applicerar den. Då ska jag inte. Och det är ju det som flyget handlar om. Det är ju därför vi har en checklista. Det handlar någonstans om att vi ska säkerställa att det inte sker. Men sen om någonting sker, men då har vi en checklista för det.
Exakt.
Och det är ju det som är grejen någonstans, att kunna fånga upp sådana scenarier. Så att det är fantastiskt bra.
Men det är så roligt bara att kunna se om man verkligen kan applicera det i mer eller mindre, mångt och mycket i allt.
Definitivt. Så vi säger så här, gå ut på hans hemsida som vi länkar såklart till och ladda hem boken. Det tycker jag definitivt att man ska göra.
Helt klart.
Perfekt julklappstips också.
Oh ja. Vad händer nästa vecka då?
Ja, men det är ju... Ja, tanken är ju så här då.
Förutom att du ska komma hit och lussa.
Nästa gång. Jag tänker att vi ska bara ha lite mysigt. Kör lite julmusik i bakgrunden. Öppna en liten glögg. Och så har vi lite så här... Lite mysig snack.
Best of the season egentligen. Vi går igenom och går tillbaka och kollar över de gästerna vi har haft, de avsnitten vi har spelat in. Även lite material som vi inte har publicerat. Vårt första material som vi spelade in för första gången här. Som ingen har hört förutom du och jag.
Just det. Och det finns en anledning till att folk inte har hört det.
Exakt. Och det är därför vi ska lyfta fram det här nu. Nu ska det svartmålas. Nej, men det är lite roliga bitar, lite intressanta klipp från de tidiga personerna som har varit med i podden och verkligen bjuda på våra egna julkarameller.
Men som sagt, som vanligt Fredrik, så kul att träffas. Jag ska gå hem nu i 2 veckor, isolera mig själv och börja sjunga upp inför...
Jobba på stämmorna.
Precis. Så har jag någonting att kunna sjunga för sen.
Och jag ska gräva runt i vårt arkiv för att plocka fram lite roliga julkarameller också som vi kan bjuda på.
Gud vad jag ser fram emot det.
Ja, det kommer bli skitbra.
Jättekul. Vi önskar en trevlig start på december månad.
Det gör vi. Ha det så bra allihopa.
Hej.
Hej. Nej men titta, är du kvar här? Ja men vad roligt. När du ändå sitter här så tycker jag du kan hoppa in på aviation.Se och registrera dig som medlem. Därför är de senaste nyheterna, allting om våra rekryteringar och så får du även hålla lite puls på oss när vi skickar ut våra nyhetsbrev varje månad. Välkommen in!